morning, Mr. Seals. How you doing?
Oh, long time since 79. I reckon I'll be all right.
You'll make it. Let's see, and I believe we have, is Mr. Johnson, I don't see Ira, but is he on? Do we know?
He is on.
Okay, wonderful. Very good. All right, at
I'm
this
here.
time, excuse me.
He just said I'm here.
Okay, very good, Mark. At this time, having reached that appointed time, I'll call the August 2nd, 2021 Harnett County Board of Commissioners regular session meeting into order. And at this time, I would ask Commissioner Nickel if he would lead our Pledge of Allegiance and have our invocation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, great architect of the universe, we come before you today to sing your praises and also thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Lord, I ask that you be with our law enforcement, our first responders, and our military. Be with those who protect our freedoms and way of life. Lord, I pray that you be with this Board of Commissioners today as we sit here and make decisions in order to better this county. In your name I pray, amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. And let me say that Commissioner Johnson will be joining us remotely this morning, so all votes will be roll call votes. At this time, we'll consider any additions or deletions to the published agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we've got two additions. You have before you a resolution declaring personal property surplus and authorizing the disposition of by donation. You have exhibits A and B, and all of that, the staff's recommending goes to Habitat for Humanity. As you recall, we bought new furniture for both the IT department when they moved and also the library. You had donated or made that available to the municipalities in case they wanted any of it. They have gotten what they want. This is leftover materials, furniture, and so we're recommending that you donate it to Habitat for Humanity. It has to be for an entity, a charitable entity that serves the public purpose. Obviously, their role is to go out and develop affordable housing. So that's our recommendation, and then this would dispose of the rest of that problem. That's number one. Number two, the health director, John Rouse, is asking you to authorize him with the budget amendment. They have received a $3,000 grant from the Carolina Area Agency on Aging to assist older adults with Medicare education and awareness. So this is simply a budget amendment to do that.
Okay, Commissioners, any issue with putting that on the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we add that to the consent agenda and that we approve the published agenda with this change as noted.
Okay, I have a motion to put this on the consent agenda and then to accept the agenda as amended. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Johnson,
Commissioner Nichols.
second.
At this time, I guess we're going to make the resolution item K on the consent agenda. And we will make the grant, receiving of the grant for the health department L. Will that work, Ms. Katz? Okay, Mr. Wood, did you have something else to say?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, this time we'll vote. Chair votes aye. Mr. Witherspoon?
Aye.
Mr. Nickel?
Yes.
Ms. McCoy? Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Johnson, yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Okay, at this time, we will consider the approval of the consent agenda as amended with the prior motion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Any Any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Commissioner Witherspoon?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, Johnson, yes.
Okay, motion carries. At this time, on the agenda, we have a period of up to 30 minutes for informal comments, allowing 3 minutes for each presentation. If you would approach the podium and state your name and residential address, and please, we would remind everyone to keep their comments professional and directed to the issue with which they are addressing. And Mr. Seals?
Morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I just wanted to come by. I didn't mention this in my other talks, but
And Mr. Seals, for Ms. Katz, will you state your residential address?
Jay Seals in the Dunn area. If I give out my address, some of the people I'm dealing with, they may come over and shoot up our house. So I hate to give out the address. Y'all know where I'm live. If you need me, you got my number.
We got it.
December 12th of last year at about 3:30 p.m., a lady came in to the yard at the Ash Avenue address and wanted me to move a trailer of mine, utility trailer. I asked her at that time what her name meant to us after she explained who she was. So after a little bit, Deputy Perez shows up, telling me I need to move the trailer with no civil process or anything. And I said, okay, well, where's your proof that it's crossed the line? Well, they said, and they said, and he said, and they said. I said, okay, I'm not doing anything until you get your paperwork from the courthouse. So on the 14th of December, they came along with the deputies of the sheriff's office and took my trailer. For 8 weeks, my trailer was gone. After trying to get it back through Lieutenant Wood of the sheriff's office, he blocked me from seeing the magistrate, getting warrants from the people who took it. Once filing civil papers in Johnston County, Tony Buzzard called me and says, where you want your trailer? I said, not too damn far from where y'all took it from. And he starts laughing. He said, you know how people are. You've been in the field before. I said, I want my trailer back. He said, you're getting it back. But I had to go through a lot of hell and damnation to put up with it. Because the deputies are untrained. They don't know what civil process is. And with untrained deputies with a gun, that's even more scarier. Just look at 42 USC 1983. That'll tell you about what I'm talking about. When you have untrained deputies who don't know, and the one standing by with Deputy Perez not knowing, it's very scary. So when he come to my trailer, I seen pictures where the deputies were there with these people, taking my trailer, stealing it. But people in the magistrate's office still let it go on without any criminal papers, because the sheriff's office said you can take people's property with no due process or anything. This is what a lot of people put up with when you have to deal with these deputies who are untrained, unprofessional, and uncaring. My years in the street as an officer, I was very caring. I never fired a weapon at nobody for no reason. Sprayed a few, yeah, we cuffed a few. But when you have untrained deputies and it's allowed by the upper management at the sheriff's office, including Lieutenant Wood, and blocking you from seeing a magistrate, it's a high crime and a misdemeanor to the people who suffer these injustices. And we all know about 42 USC 1983, but as a former officer, I've trained and I've listened to what the problems are in the system. We need to know, everybody needs to know before the next occurrence happens, what happens when people are treated unjustly by the system, no matter what you look like or where you come from. But as a former officer, when people takes your property and thinks it's okay and then it's upheld by the sheriff's office, there's a problem, folks. December 12th and 14th, I listened to Deputy Perez, and I'm thinking to myself, where did he get his civil process training? What class? I want to go to it and I want to listen to it, because he don't know what the hell he's doing. I hope you folks understand what people feel like when people in uniform with a gun don't know what they're doing. Don't know what they're doing. This is what we had to put up with. Then on the 5th, early 6th of February, we had a deputy corporal pulled a gun on me for standing in the yard telling him he needs to clean up the area from the drug problem at Ash Avenue and New Path Road, while a wreck was across the street from people who were intoxicated and arrested by the Highway Patrol. It took so long for the deputies to come. Dunn Police came first because of mutual aid. I requested, I said, why don't y'all use mutual aid in cases like this? Well, okay, so they sent done, and then by that time, the county was pulling up behind them, then the highway patrol. But when you have untrained people, it leads to mass problems, and innocent people pay the price until we get to come up here and say, hey, where is the training? Where is the basic necessities of training when you have deputies who come out here to help you, and they add to the problem of not knowing and giving false information that leads to 42 USC 1983. Mr. Snow can tell you about it. But as a former officer, everybody needs to understand what we go through. I thank you, and I know my 3 minutes is up, but see you next time.
Thank you, Mr. Seals. Anyone else wishing to speak this morning? Mr. Langley?
Good morning, Joe Langley, 298 Kirk Adams Road. In the past 2 weeks, a total of 36 Harnett County businesses and organizations have shared their support of Care for Carolina, a statewide 100-member coalition advocating that policymakers in Raleigh close the coverage gap through a version of Medicaid expansion tailored to the needs and priorities of North Carolina. The coverage gap refers to people who earn too much to qualify for Medicaid, but not enough to get help in the private insurance marketplace. Prior to COVID-19, the Kaiser Family Foundation estimated that if North Carolina closed the coverage gap, over 400,000 North Carolinians would gain health care coverage. According to Care for Carolina coverage map, impact map, more than 17% of non-elderly workers in Harnett County have no insurance, which equates to 8,302 of our Harnett County citizens. This means these citizens are one bad health event away from potential devastation and bankruptcy. The MAP stats also indicate that Harnett County would gain 334 jobs and by closing the coverage gap. And then the most compelling thing of all, which directly affects our county government and our commissioners, is that Harnett County government and citizens would save $500,000 a year that you are currently paying for medical services for inmates in the county jail. This is of particular importance as the county struggles to find funding to build much-needed schools for its new citizens. Every business or individual that I have talked to regarding this issue has the same question. They say, why is North Carolina not already accepting this money that we've already paid for through our federal taxes? I want to urge the county commissioners to adopt a resolution of support of the efforts of Care for Carolina to close the coverage gap by asking our members of the General Assembly to approve a version of Medicaid expansion tailored to the needs and priorities of North Carolina. I've provided all commissioners with a copy of the legislator's handbook. This is what every one of your representatives has in their hands today. Please do me a favor. Don't listen to the rhetoric. Don't listen to the political divide on this. Get the facts. It's on the cover of the book. Read it. I think you will be overwhelmed, and I am available. My phone number is on the front of the notebook. Please give me a call, and I'll help you out. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Langley. Is anyone else wishing to speak this morning? Okay, seeing no one move, we will close this period of public comments. Next on the agenda, we have appointments. Do we have any appointments this morning?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Health, Harnett County Health Director John Rouse is recommending that Linda Sturdivant be reappointed to the board. Currently, she serves as the public member on the board, and this will be Ms. Sturdivant's third term. He also recommends that Amy Allen, registered nurse, be reappointed to the board. Currently, she serves as the registered nurse and vice chairman of the board. This will be Ms. Allen's third term also. Make a motion that we approve these recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherspoon. We have a motion to approve these two recommendations for the Board of Health. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Any discussion? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Commissioner Weatherspoon?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy? Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. That moves us to item 7, motion to reduce the per 1,000 gallons fee for waste haulers from $85 to $65, maintaining the $25 per load charge, to open up the receiving station from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and for Harnett Regional Water to develop a written policy for emergency situations that might arise from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m., as well as a state of emergency, if in the event of a state of emergency due to weather events or other acts of God.
Mr. Chairman, being that I wrote that, I make a motion that we approve it.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherspoon, and may I say it was written very well. Do I hear a second?
As stated, you said $25 per load. It would be $20 per
$20
load.
per
per
load.
load.
Did I misspeak? I apologize.
I second the motion to reduce 1,000 gallons from 85 to 65 and $20 per load, and the according hours that are published.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, chair votes aye. Commissioner Weatherspoon?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Motion carries 4-1. On to item 8, motion to select an executive search firm finalist for interviews for county manager recruitment process. If you'll remember at our work session, we decided that we would bring our top 2 or 3 selections this morning after reviewing the RFPs, I guess, or RFQs, the RFQs that were submitted. And so I will open the floor to discussion of that or a motion.
Do you have the names of the qualifying firms?
Yeah, they were, the Mercer Group, Slater and Associates, Raftellus, and the other 3, I left my notes, I can go get them real quick. One was, HR USA, Coffin Associates, and I can't remember the 6th one.
Baker Tilly or something.
Yeah, Baker Tilly.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we interview the Mercer Group and Slavin as possible search firms for the county manager recruitment process.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherspoon. We have a motion to select Mercer Group and Slavin to come in for an interview. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Okay, any discussion? All right, hearing none, the chair votes aye. Commissioner Weatherspoon?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy? Excuse me? Aye. Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Okay, motion carries. If your staff will set up that,
Shannon will be in touch with y'all at least by tomorrow.
sounds good.
What I'd like to do, if y'all are in agreement, since there's only 2, is we'll try to schedule them back to back, and that way we only cut into one of your days.
Sounds like a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Okay, that brings us to item 9, the county manager's report. Mr. Wood?
I think you have the DSS report. The only other thing I'd like to add is that we are in the process of trying to get the names of some additional broadband consultants. As y'all know, we have put in for that $15 million grant. It's a slim chance we may get it, but we put it in nonetheless. There are two other pots of money, and the reason I bring that up is this is your number one goal, according to your goals for the year. And I'm going to come to you probably in a couple of weeks and give you a detailed background on the ARPA money. That's the American Rescue Plan money. But there are two pots of money there that can be used for broadband. The first is the county's getting $26.4 million. And there are restrictions on that money. That's part of what we're going to go over with you in that 2-year period. We go into more depth. The second pot of money is the state is getting much more than that. And so far, I think the governor has made it clear in his presentation on the budget that he wants to put quite a bit of money into broadband. What we're waiting on is both the House and the Senate need to come together on a budget, and then of course the governor needs to either approve it or veto it, and they'll go through a reconciliation process there. But what we do know is that the state is going to run their ARPA money through the state budget. So once that document is out, we'll be able to determine exactly how much broadband money is going to be available in the state budget. You have some portion of the $26.4 million that we're confident can be used for broadband as well. So where we need to get to next is we need to have some indication of what this is going to cost. And also, we need to decide on what's the performance level you want in terms of megabytes up and down that people can utilize. And so we need some outside help on that, to design that, to give us options on it, and then to put cost estimates to that. And so to me, that is similar to what you would do on a water project, where you don't go and fully design it, you give a preliminary engineering plan. And that'll give you the cost estimates and give you estimations on what it would be. As I see it, again, I'm not a broadband engineer, but as I see it, we have three choices that we would want a consultant to look at. One is, do we want to go 100% wireless? The second choice would be, do you want to go 100% fiber, which is considerably more expensive? And the third option is, do you want to go with what's called a hybrid system? That is, where you may have a fiber backbone in certain areas, and then you use the wireless to feed into that. And so our thinking right now is that we would ask for that type of recommendation. And along with that, then you, as the decision makers, would have some ballpark figures on what is each one of those costs, and what's the performance level, and what is it that we want to do in Harnett County. We're going to need this, in my opinion, because the state money is going to be on a competitive grant basis. And so the more information that you can give those decision makers on the grant, the better chance we have of getting the grant. And so obviously, if we have a preliminary engineering report that says, this is what Harnett County wants to do, if we're given the grant money, here's how we want to deploy it. And hopefully, if the price isn't too high, we can go ahead and do the county-wide. If not, part of your decision-making process then will be, how do we phase this in, given the money we have? But we have an opportunity with this one-time money to put a really big dent in that project, which is, again, your number one priority. So I'm working with Ira and Brian Haney right now on that. We'll be coming back to you probably at the next work session, if not definitely by the next meeting, to go a little more in detail on that. But I wanted to give you an overview of where we're trying to get to on that. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any questions? Any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. McCoy.
I would like to ask the chairman if there would be any funds in these grants for water infrastructure, like,
Water.
water infrastructure.
Yes, yes.
Because I understand that in the future, we're gonna need some funds,
Yes,
because we're gonna need to build another plant here in Harnett County.
that's
And I wanna
correct.
make sure that if there's any in those funds, they not only cover broadband, but as well as that too.
Right. That's an excellent point. What we plan on doing, and I think I may have said this at the last work session, what we plan on doing is, I'm gonna come to you probably in about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We're waiting to hear what the state's budget is. Once we have that, they'll put in there also not only broadband, but what they're going to have as a pot of money for water and sewer. And we do already know that you're able to use your pot of money for water and sewer. And so, what my intention is that we will go over in depth with you what the money can be used for. And then I would hope that what you will do is have some work sessions that are devoted solely to how you want to allocate that out. Prior to that, or as part of that, I would hope that what you would do is have some public input sessions to where the public can comment on what they would like to see. But before we can do that, we need to know what the rules of the game are. In other words, it's not going to do any good if the public comes in and says, well, I want to do X with it. If X isn't allowed as something they'll approve. So once we have the rules of the game, we'll come back to you. And that's when I would hope we would call for a work session. And the first part of that work session would be to get some public input. And then after that, you may need 2 or 3 work sessions as you work through exactly how you want to allocate this money out.
Thank you. I am particularly interested in the fact that through these workshops that we're gonna have, we'll be more informed on how to educate the public
Right,
as to how we're gonna use this money.
right.
And as I've said in the past, I do think that the public should be involved, and we should use that money, the funds, as broadly as we can across the county, rather than just in certain, 1 or 2 areas.
Right. Well, and that's why I want to give you a detailed explanation of what it can be used for, so that we're all on the same sheet of music as to what is allowed. And then ultimately, it's up to you 5 people to make the decisions on how you want to allocate it out. And the way I see this taking place is a lot of this should be done in your capital improvements program, because that's a 6-year plan. With this money, as I said the other day, it has to be allocated by December of 2024. And we're coming up on December 21. So you have 3 years to make the decisions. Obviously, I wouldn't wait that long. I would hope we can make it as part of our capital improvements program process this year. And you typically finish that around November of each year. So with any luck, we might have this, or at least most of it, allocated out by November or December of 2021 through your capital improvements program. So did I address your questions?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Wood, you have anything else?
No, sir, I think that's it. I believe we do have a closed session.
Okay. Next, any new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner McCoy?
I have a need to call for a closed session to consult with the county legal counsel in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege concerning the handling of certain litigation, namely the following case: Whitaker versus Lemco Custom Builders versus Harnett County. I guess that's ET. What is that? And it's supposed to be to the Harnett County Superior Court, file number 21 VC CVS 670.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. We have a motion to go into closed session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Nickel. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Commissioner Witherspoon?
Aye.
Commissioner Nickel?
Aye.
Commissioner McCoy?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Okay, we will move out of open session and move into closed session.
Mr. Chairman,